Good answer. Okay. Friday, March 17th, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. We'll call the Gig Harbor Civil Service Commission special meeting to order. There will be no minutes for review at this meeting. They will be reviewed at the next regular meeting. Could you do a call of order? For the minutes?
Oh, goodness, I don't have that in front of me.
Should I do that for you?
Gee,
Okay, Civil Service Commissioner Richards,
Here.
Civil Service Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Civil Service Commissioner Perry is here, and we have Assistant City Clerk Tiffany Alman. And online with us, we have Council Member Martin, and I am G. Kelly Busey.
Very good.
No one's absent.
Okay. Certification of lateral hiring list. Everybody should have received a list.
Yep.
And Kelly?
Sure. We conducted lateral oral boards on a week ago, Wednesday. And we had 3 applicants go through the physical agility test and take the oral board. All 3 candidates passed both functions or both elements of that testing process. We began the waiver and background process in advance of this meeting. I don't believe the list has to be certified until we get to the conditional offer point anyway, but in the interest of time, we initiated the background investigation, and one of the 3 candidates was almost immediately disqualified based on a background issue. So that leaves us with 2. Those 2 remain and are offered for your certification.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
No, I guess we don't need to ask any questions like where from, but doesn't matter much.
You can, since the names are public. One candidate is from Bainbridge Island PD and one is from Kirkland.
Oh, both locals,
And both live in Gig Harbor.
really?
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
No
So
commute, no commute then.
we're optimistic. As a reminder, we have 4 current openings. Those are the openings created in the 2023-24 budget approved by City Council. We will anticipate later this year 2 more vacancies at a minimum. So we're recruiting hot and heavy, but we're optimistic on candidates.
Say, just say a word, if you would, about recruiting these laterals. I mean,
Certainly. So we have always had the lateral testing process open for application. We have not really promoted it much in the last, say, 4 months, only because we knew we were coming to the end of the collective bargaining agreement, and we wanted to get that signed and in place so that we could advertise with 2023 wages instead of 2022. And so that's been our tactic. These 3 applicants actually came to us kind of in that quiet period of recruiting and advertising. So they were already on our hiring potential list, and so they were invited to this testing process. So that's where we will. I'll talk in a moment about entry-level recruiting and our upcoming plan test. We will also turn up the heat a little bit on lateral recruiting. So we want to just get good pools of candidates from both entry and lateral.
Well, I would move to certify this lateral police officer eligibility list.
second,
Okay, any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
I,
And it passes unanimous.
Okay.
Very good. Selection of entry-level test and process review.
Yeah, so let me start with a high level overview of our entry level process that we talked about last commission meeting that you've approved. We have since contacted a vendor of a test. I've given you some sample sheets, some 1-pagers on the 3 different written tests that are offered by this testing company, iOS Solutions. This is a test that it's a test company that is used by public safety testing, which does the majority of the testing in Washington State. It's also used by Lakewood Police Department, who runs their own test. As we talked about last time, there's a strong movement afoot to conduct our own test. That movement is from our officers. Generally, they want to be part of the process and kind of watch the candidates. We also think that based on prior experience, us testing our own candidates instead of sending them to public safety testing in Linwood would get a better concentration of applicants that are interested in this agency alone, instead of checking the box to 20 different agencies to send their test results to. And I think that's already manifesting itself as we look at the early applicants for entry level. So having done that, we contacted iOS Solutions. They gave our human resources director and human resources assistant Desiree Mead some an overview of their testing process and how that works. They gave us their 3 sample tests to pick from. I can tell you that based on those that conversation and overview of the tests, we've honed in on one, but before I prejudice you with that, I wanted to see if you had any comments, because I value your input on what you may have picked up from these one-pagers. After we select a test, we do a transportability study. So in other words, it's like a brief survey of several people within our department to make sure that our values, needs, desires, job elements and stuff match the test. They can actually sculpt the test results slightly to fit our agency if needed. So in other words, if we had no interest in investigating traffic collisions, for instance, they could remove some process or some results from this testing process. The candidate doesn't know this, but tailor those applicants to our needs. That makes some sense. I hope I explained that well. We order the tests in advance. We administer the test, and then we send the results back to the company. They score them within 48 hours, give us the results. The tests, all of them have been vetted for bias and fairness and things like that. Tests have been around a while. So with that in mind, I don't know if you had a chance to look over these one-pagers and have any thoughts on any of them.
Well, I think that's a really good idea to have our people involved in what goes in the testing process. I mean, at least have a finger on parts of it, yeah.
The 3 different tests, I mean, I saw some different pass rates and that, can you explain the kind of the differences?
Right.
I mean,
I'm referring back to the meeting we had with the vendor.
Right.
I can only tell you that one of the tests was markedly, but they admitted it was markedly harder than the other 2. And it really excludes a lot of people that in their words might have otherwise been good cops, not good test takers. So
okay,
that explains at least one of the differences.
okay. Because I haven't had statistics in 40 years. So, I was just trying to read some of the statistical information on it.
I'll throw in that according to our civil service rules, that a written score of 70 is required, 70%. So
Okay.
you can maybe factor that into your reading. Was there a preference or anything? Yeah, I can't speak too much about each individual test, other than to tell you that we've really zeroed in on what's called the NC JOSI 2 test. And there's a lot of literature, but one of them is NC
Right.
JOSI
Right.
test. That seems to be a good balance of good common knowledge testing, wide variety of applicants, open to a diverse sort of community.
And it looks like the number of people that have taken that test, it's pretty validated, over 100,000 taken it. So
It's been around a while.
Been a while, yeah.
And in fact, on that note, the NGen, is that the acronym there? NGen?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the newest one, and they have not had a lot of experience with that, so that was one reason they avoided that. The third test was the one that seemed to be very difficult and maybe excluded some otherwise good cops. So, I'll I'll tell you, I took a sample test on the NC Josie. I didn't take the test, but I reviewed some of the test questions. Challenging.
Yeah.
It's not a gimme. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Okay. Tom, any questions or Denny?
No, I agree. This is a good way to go. I can remember doing the pin test, the military test
Right.
when I applied at Vancouver in 1966.
There you go. Well,
To update you a little bit on our process too, April 22nd, we've secured Harbor Ridge Middle School. So we anticipate doing the physical agility testing in the morning. And then those who pass the physical agility test would be invited to come back in the afternoon in the cafeteria. And we will proctor the test for them there. The reason we want to do it in that order, and this will dovetail into business item number 3, is we're paying to score the tests. It's $25 per test. We've capped that to 100 people, 100 applicants at this point. Unless you want to overrule that in some way. But that sort of maximum exposure to the city is $2,500. We figured that that's kind of cheap insurance for a fully vetted test, defensible test. And we don't want to pay for people to take the written test and then subsequently fail the physical agility. So
Right,
we goes
yeah.
in that work.
makes sense.
Yeah, good idea.
How long a break between the two, or do you know, or?
I haven't penciled it all the way out yet, but in round numbers, I would say that registration would probably run from like 8 to 9. We do the physical agility at 9. We should be able to get through everybody by about 11:30, and maybe start the written test by 1:30. The written test takes 2.5 hours to administer.
And who will proctor the test then?
It would be our staff, we're using a variety of like our support services staff, some officers, and even our cops volunteers. You would be welcome to come and observe the testing process.
Okay.
Right? You wouldn't be able to participate in it because you're the
Right,
arbiter if something goes wrong.
right.
And you would be invited to do that April 22nd.
Okay. Do you want, as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at the 3. It sounds like the choice that would be your preference would be fine with me.
Not-
I don't know, if do you want us to run a motion and, I mean, it's.
Yeah, there's nothing in the civil service rules that prescribes that you pick the actual test, I guess, but just by having it noted in the minutes that you concur with that recommendation that
Absolutely.
NC Josie would be the way to go, would be helpful. In case there's a question about process, so.
Okay. Very good. And then the last item on the agenda, amendments to the civil service rule,
Right,
8709.
and I don't know if you have in your packets the proposed amendment that we have to 8.09.
Mhm.
Basically, what this is saying is that we want you to be able to limit the maximum number of applicants who can take any portion of the test. Previously, the wording in the civil service rules surrounded just the written test, right? We want to just be able to limit the number of applicants, and for the very reason I just described, reducing the city's exposure to a certain amount of cost. And it also induces people to apply early, right? We're testing limited to the first 100.
Right.
So, to do that, to accomplish that, we would need to alter 8.09C in the manner that I've given you on paper. It also, as we discovered later, and this is a late addition, I'll hand this out, it would require the elimination of 8.09B, which competes with the changes, suggested changes in 8.09C. It makes it more clear.
And how do you actually do that? Limiting it? You register applicants?
Correct, yeah, so an applicant right now that's interested in testing for entry level goes on to govjobs.com.
Yeah,
Right, and they'll apply. We cap it at 100. After 100, we'll shut off that one. And
Very good.
so that we kind of pre-vet them. I know that of the last I checked, there were 18 applicants. There's one that doesn't meet the age requirement, they're too young, so they would be taken out of play, and that opens up one more spot.
That would make sense. I would move to amend 809C and take out any of the portions that you've omitted from your copy of that here.
Okay, and I can submit a copy of this with the minutes too.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And also, 8.09B,
Strike B.
yeah, change that, so.
Okay, I'm gonna do that as well.
Second,
Okay, any additional discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Passes unanimous.
And back to the test process, we talked about the commission approving NCJOS 1-2. That's right, I and 2. But we never made a motion to accept that, if that's what you think we need.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt. Again, it sure can be reflected in the minutes, but in the form of a
Make that
motion.
make that a motion as well.
Okay. Is that, are you making that?
I'll
motion?
make that motion.
That
Okay.
you would endorse that.
I would endorse that.
second,
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
There we go.
Harbor Ridge, huh?
Yeah, I just got confirmation of that today. So,
Where are we distributing the
good question.
flyers?
For the recruiting flyer, on all of our social medias, on the city website, on police1.com, which is a very popular website for officers who are looking for employment. The Association of Washington Cities, Criminal Justice Training Center, which is probably the second most popular place that officers are looking right now. And that might be it for now. Yeah.
Is that starting more than I was making at $470 a month? When I started in
Yeah,
'67.
I will say, yeah, well, thankfully, and I know we have a council member listening, but thankfully, and appreciatively, they approved a contract that puts us at the top of our comparable cities,
Oh,
which is really what I asked for. I didn't want to get into the signing bonus or the retention bonus thing, right?
Right.
Because that brings people here, I think, for the wrong reason.
Right.
So let's take care of them long term, and I think we're on course to do that.
Very good. Anything else for the agenda?
Just realized that after the entry level testing date of April 22nd, that's just 2 phases. They have to pass those, and it's anticipated that we'll take, say, the top 15 applicants from that list or the scoring to an oral board process. That date hasn't been determined yet. It'll be sometime in early May, but you would then be invited to watch that process too. I think, Tom, you may have sat in on.
no, I don't think so, I'm interested in to begin with,
Okay, so we will, generally that world board panel is made up of members of our departments. Sometimes we invite somebody from another department. And then either a city council member or a member of the community.
Very good.
Sounds good.
Motion to close. Huh?
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Very good.
thank you very much.
We can stop recording.
Mr. Chairman, it feels got a strange plague in different positions. It's like I moved